Hi everybody, episode 2
4
something. No, at least 5 is not 6. Anyway, as usual, we don't know, so not that it matters. What we're going to talk about a bit today. So I wanted to give like a kind of a bit of a recap I'm halfway through the 12-week cycle. I'm on week 6. And I wanted to talk about strength a little bit and what it takes to be strong. So say hi to Moppy, the other Frenchie, who wants attention. So that makes Janina very, very jealous, which is why I'm playing with him right now.
I really find it, this is...
She finds it very offensive that he likes me so much. Like he wants to play with me like this all the time. He just doesn't want to play with her, which is, exactly. So we halfway through, so I wanted to talk about strength. But first, I'm going to put all that within the fitness industry. So first, we're going to talk about Obiwan Kenobi. It will all make sense at the end. I am very happy to report that the show sucked, as I was saying. And it actually sucked so bad that they fired the writer, and they fired the movie director, and they fired the director of the show. So let's talk about that a little bit. Because as much as it seems the whole crowd is losing actually on this one, at least on the Disney, on the Star Wars front. So Kathleen Kennedy got fired last year from all creative input, whatever you want to call that, all creative input within the Star Wars universe. So, and yeah, that's the one who was wearing a t-shirt saying the Force is female. So I did not know that the Force had a gender, but apparently he has one and he's female. Anyway, so she's the one who created a script for a movie that was going to be called Obi-Wan. The movie didn't happen, so they made it into a series. But they kept the same script with Riva and all that shit. So that was a disaster. We're going to come back to that soon. This is my life. Right. Anyway, so Kathleen Kennedy gets fired from any creative input and everything. So, but before that, she still hired Deborah Cho as the director for the Obi-Wan show. So she got fired, and one of the main reasons she got fired was because she pushed away Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Luke. Literally, she said it in order to push more forward Leia, Princess Leia, 6 years old, and the character Riva. Yeah. So she wanted to put Leia and Riva in front and the other ones in back. I'm curious to know what Riva and Leia had in common as characters.
Vagina?
It seems that is the case. I wonder what Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Luke had in common.
A penis.
Most likely. And so, literally, as I was saying, this was the woke shit that got her fired. Thank God. The reason the writer got fired on top of Obi-Wan being a shit show, because he doesn't follow the lore, there's no continuity, it's just so bad. And I think he was saying like they're not allowed to do their work and everything. Bullshit. The writer did not know that Obi-Wan knew that Anakin was Darth Vader. That means that you did not watch Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, where it's discussed twice.
So for the non-nerd people...
Everybody knows that one.
He
didn't know the main characters that he's supposed to write a show about.
Exactly.
About that. So of course he gets fired because it's a fucking nightmare.
But that's insane as an idea. So he doesn't know the main characters and their motivation and the character.
And as he's saying, I'm not changing the lore, I'm adding to it.
Yeah.
No, you don't know what the fuck you're doing. That's all. Anyway.
What I wonder is how big of an ego do you have to justify doing that? Right,
but that's called diversity hiring. Anyway, they're just not hiring people based on quality or even know the fucking thing, but based on political, it's political hiring, that's all this is. Yeah. It's ridiculous. Why can't you're going to tell me there is no fans out there that fit the...
but if you're going to do that way of hiring, you're going to create...
At least hire the good ones.
Well, and it's dangerous because you're going to create a perspective that is only from a specific type of people.
Only a specific type of people, which is what happened when they were pushing female characters in a show that was about Obiwan, Anakin, and Luke. Like, you don't like it, then create another show where the female characters are up front. There's so many of them where we can do that. You don't have to take the Why is it that the only legitimacy that exists is found in white characters? That's what I want to know. How is that not a racist thought that when it comes to feminism, the only legitimacy comes from men, and when it comes to the diversity bullshit, the only merit can only be found in white characters. Mm-hmm. So why do you have to make Thor black, like we saw in certain comic books, or women or stuff like that? Storm is an awesome character. By the way, you can go to Africa, I know because I live there. There is a lore there. They have their own legends that you could bring to the screen. Why not do that? You're going to tell me that the continent of Africa doesn't have an amazing set of heroes and folklore and within their culture and everything? I live there. I can tell you there is. Why not take that and make a movie out of it? And I say, why is it that you have to find legitimacy in white characters, mostly male white characters? Well, does that sound like if Freud was around, he would find that very weird, I gotta tell you.
But why do you think that is? Is it because of a lack of...
Because those woke people are fucking racist at heart. That's why. They can only see the world as a white thing.
So they have a lack of perspective, seeing things from different sides.
Yes, they can't
so
see.
Much in their own message.
They're so in their own, and they live on Twitter, and they're so in their own bubble that they cannot see anything outside. They talk about diversity and everything, but they're incapable of looking outside of their own thing.
Yeah, so their structure is just too narrow, so the pyramid doesn't go high.
If they had traveled anywhere outside of their own little bubble, they would know that the world is not about color, it's about culture.
Yeah.
Like, I've lived everywhere, and I can tell you, for example, I've seen Americans, black and white, getting along better than a white from America and a white from, like either an Arabic country or whatever. Mm-hmm. I mean, like, that's not
it's
that. Like, a black man in Somalia has completely different view of the world as a black man from Brooklyn.
Yeah, and even like more Western countries, like if you see someone from France, it's very different than someone from Holland, and someone from Holland is very different than someone from the US.
It's not shades of white, it's shades of cultures.
Yeah.
Stop with the color thing.
Yeah.
Understand that it's culture.
It's not that easy. You know what I mean?
It's not that easy. And so, like, framing everything around that makes the world into an overly simplified stuff that maybe makes sense to you because you're so fucking stupid and narrow-minded. But in the real world, that's not how this works. Yeah. So stop finding legitimacy only in white characters.
So
there's so many good black characters out there. Let's just push them forward. Yeah. It's not that hard.
Yeah.
It's so many. Like there was two X-Men team, but the second one, right? There was a Russian dude. There was a guy who looked like a demon blue from Germany. There was Wolverine who was from Canada. Jean Grey ended up being the most powerful creature. She was a woman. Storm was from Africa, right? Found in Egypt as an orphan, being a thief that Professor Xavier found. What else you want?
Yeah.
What else do you want? The number of awesome female superheroes since the 70s is impossible to count. There's so many.
Oh, they're killing white male characters to promote women characters, but instead of creating a strong female character based on feminine strength, they just replace it for...
No, but they just take a male white character, take, and lately it's been black women, and then turn it into that.
Yeah.
So
instead of building that own...
No, but character. You're not helping the character. So let's talk about Riva for a second. In episode 6, she shows up, how we don't know, because she just got pierced through the stomach with a lightsaber, which was enough to kill Queen Jong. So how did he died, but she survived? We don't know. She makes it to Tatooine, even though, again, she took the lightsaber from Vader. Anyway, she's going to stand in front of Luke and decide, spoilers ahead, and not kill him. Right, so the only reason Luke is alive is because that character left him alive. that character brings nothing to the Star Wars universe. Yeah. She has not changed anything. Should be killed by Vader, who, by the way, sucks at killing people now. Because he stabs her and everything and doesn't check if he's dead or anything and lets her walk away. Anyway, I mean, it goes on and on. The writing is so shitty. But you brought her into this, in what you know was going to piss people off, because a week before you started tweeting about it. And she gains nothing to the Star Wars universe. Yeah. Whether she's there or not, there is no difference. Yeah. You know what I mean? It makes no difference in what happens. So why are you putting the character, forget the actress, why are you putting the character there, in that space, knowing that all you're asking is for people to hate on it, because he has no reason. Yeah. Jar Jar Binks, as hated as he was, right, as a character, at least change the universe. He's the one who brings the vote of confidence toward Emperor Palpatine, who's senator but turn into Emperor Palpatine. He might have been a Sith Lord, but he's the one who creates the love story between Leia and Leia. Sorry, my bad. Leia was the daughter, but with Anakin. Mm-hmm. And so
you lost me 3 sentences.
I know, you don't understand, but they know what I'm saying. Like, at least he brought something forward. Padme and Anakin. Okay. So anyway,
but do you think that they treated it out earlier to feed off that anger? Yeah, maybe that was
that, and to hide the fact that it was to be so shitty.
So people would watch to get angry.
I don't think. I don't think it goes as far. I think those people live on Twitter, mm-hmm. and are justified in what they do on Twitter, and that's mm-hmm. enough for them. Like, they cannot leave that bubble. Mm-hmm. I think Twitter has become a mental disease in a way, where it's mostly comments are 80% women, I think, but it's a very specific bubbles where journalists and tech people live, and so that's it's almost like that elitist bubble where people communicate. Yeah. It's like, if you're a journalist in today's world, you cannot do your career without Twitter. Yeah, it's crazy. Politicians talk there all the time. Like, Twitter is a very, very weird place, and I believe it's turning into almost like a mental disease. So,
but what I also understand is that crowd has a really big ego, and the only way that people with a big ego can keep their ego or their ego not being challenged is by convincing other people that.
Right, but the thing is,
that's their feedback loop, right? How many people they can
for sure, but they lived on an ivory tower.
Yeah,
and
they're super.
This is a class war.
What's the word for that? They're super, like, they feel a lot better than the rest, I feel like.
Oh, for sure, 100%.
Sorry, entitled maybe.
Well, entitled as well, but they live on ivory tower, and they have to treat us as peasants a certain way. Yeah. You can see that the people responsible for the Star Wars Twitter account have set the mob on an account that dude had 12 followers or 20 followers, some shit like that. And he said, please don't make Star Wars political. Because he was referring to a tweet where, had a whole shit with Riva and everything, they brought a comic book that had 2 gay lesbian characters, right? And they're kissing on the front and everything. And the guy said, please don't make Star Wars political. Not the craziest tweet in the world.
Kind of a valid
point where we're trying to stop, pushing people based on their sexuality. Let's build characters instead of putting them into boxes. And the Star Wars account has 12 million followers, I believe. Set its own people against that dude who who got off Twitter because he just didn't want to take the abuse. They took screenshots of what he was told. He was told to die, to go into a rock, and they did that repeatedly in the last few weeks. The Star Wars account has sent its dogs onto small fans' account. Anybody? Yeah. Anybody think this is not a war somewhere against a nerd culture? Like, this is an insane thing. But so, capitalism has scored 1 for the good guys, and that movie director, Deborah Shaw, and the writer got fired. What I find interesting, and that's going to relate to training, is why they got fired. They got fired not because the fans or the people like me screamed their lungs out about the whole thing. What happened is the normies, the casual fan.
Normies is short for normal people who aren't nerds.
Yeah, so you normies.
Which I love that term because I feel like it.
Yeah, we don't mean it in a nice way, but anyway.
I find it fantastic.
Yes, okay, so the normies got.
Happy there's a separation.
No.
Between nerds and normies?
You should know better. Like, you should not be able to sleep at night knowing you're a normie. That's another problem. Were so disappointed and pissed at the show that the Disney CEO stepped in and fired everybody.
Yeah.
By the way, the show was that bad that the normies started to say this is crazy.
Yeah. And
even him, who's one of the workers guy out there, he had a video in his car crying about how we were treating Riva, Moses Ingram, the actress. And that dude is was pissed at Kathleen Kennedy because she still, before she got fired, she still had certain controls over music and stuff like that. And he was pissed at her. It is such a shit show that the normies got turned off, and that pushed the Disney CEO of stepping in and starting to chop heads off.
Yeah.
So score 1 for capitalism. What's interesting is George Lucas is going to write season 2. So we got what we wanted. What do I talk about this? Because the reason, again, the axe went down is because the normies got upset. Not the fans.
But
the normies. But that's very important because this is how corporations work and the only thing they care about. If you see like the iPhone or if you see Apple in general or all those techs, what do? Every year they try to appeal to the maximum amount of people. To do that, they get blender every time so that they stay straight in the center so that they do not upset anybody. And I'm not talking just Star Wars, I'm talking in general. 70 to 80% of the market is dictated by women. They are the one who buy stuff. Like the market is dictated by women. And they don't want to upset them by stating things on either side. So what they do is they stay in the middle where they cannot be criticized. That's really what their aim is. And that's why the Disney CEO came in, because he was like, I cannot have normies criticizing the show. Then it's a bad sign.
It is. They aim for that because at the end it's all about making money.
That's all.
And that was a good point that we were talking about in the car this morning. You were making the point that that's the positive thing about the American culture is that they have a measurement of money because they have a motivation to make money. At least they have a good feedback loop. You know what I mean? If they don't make more money, there's not something that needs to be changed.
If they lose money, there's a problem. Yep.
Yeah, in today's society, that might be a very valid feedback loop. It's better than the feedback loop we have in
Europe when there is none. So
there is none in Europe.
For example, like in France right now, they instituted a lockdown against outside events because it's too hot.
Yeah, like that alone should just.
So they cannot be concert or outside stuff because it got too hot, because it got to 40 degrees, which is like 110 or something.
My father, I was talking with my father on the phone, and he was telling me some new stuff about Holland, and it was honestly terrifying.
So I don't know about the US, but I can tell in Europe, they're not giving back the power they got during the pandemic, which I bitched about for the last 2 years. They're never gonna give it back.
And at least there's a feedback loop in the US.
So capitalism for that, yes, at least at that feedback loop. Yeah. The Disney CEO saw the numbers and when something has to be done. So thank goodness. What I find interesting is that the only thing that will move them is the large amount of people. So the problem we have with that is that I see that in the fitness industry where they are trying to say things that will not upset people. So,
very much so.
Right. So you know what it means, though? It means that they're going to tell you programs that are 3 weeks long, 4 weeks long, or they're going to have like the joke about in a Ben Stiller movie when there's something about Marie, like the 7-minute ab workout versus the 8-minute ab workout. Like it's kind of where the industry is pushing, because what they're trying is to upset the least amount of people so they can sell the maximum amount of stuff. So you see that with there's less and less product in those in the thing, because you don't want people to have a certain reaction. It has to work, but then they'll just take more.
What thing?
The supplements, right? You start to see a lot of that. So at least they're doing some chemical tests to know that we're actually getting the stuff, right? Because people were getting upset. Once the people that take the regular whey protein started to realize there was nothing in it and it was just around the mix section, then the industry changed. It's a numbers game. So for supplement, it worked because it forced companies to actually not sell shit. So that was good. For training program, it's a disaster because they are not telling you the basic facts of life when it comes to training. So I had that woman who commented on one of the posts about you saying like, yeah, just follow this program and you look like her. Yeah. And my response was, no, you won't. You don't have your genetics, you don't have your drive, you are not a sprint champion, and you're not gonna commit the time that she's committing to our training, so no, you won't look like her.
Well, and
that's the truth.
And it's more than just a program, and that's what I'm finding out more and more as well, is that it's a fucking grind, and it takes a lot of sacrifice.
It's a lifestyle, all right.
And it's a lifestyle, and you can't let go on anything. You can't train, you can't be excellent without a shit ton of work, and not just training, it's education, it's reading, it's everything.
So I wanted to talk about that, like in a way, like what does it take to be strong?
It takes a lot.
And you're beat up all the time and everything. So that's why, like, I'm gonna do like a recap on. I think a recap of midway point of the template will be a good way for me to explain what it takes to be strong. So first of all, I started a year ago now, going back to what serious training. Yeah. I was training before, but I wasn't training to surpass my own numbers.
Yeah. So you were training to sustain, right?
Which means you lose.
And
you don't sustain shit. If you're training to sustain, to maintain, you're losing.
Yeah.
That's what I found out the hard way, which I knew, let's be honest, but there's no such thing. It's either you try to get better or not.
And that's something I discovered as well.
Yeah, you don't maintain shit.
It
goes away.
Yeah, it does.
It goes away.
It does. And honestly, settling for anything is losing.
Yeah.
Either you fucking do it,
or you accept the fact that you're losing it.
Or you're losing.
Yeah, then accept the fact that you're losing it. There's no in between.
Yeah, it is.
So training to maintain is slowly losing, basically. That's all. So I decided a year ago to like, you know what, I want to be strong again.
We moved to Brazil, so we
moved to Brazil, and then she wanted to do the powerlifting stuff and everything, and I was like, you know what? I'll do it with you because I want to get strong again. But my interest was simple. Was like, can I go back to my old numbers? Because weighing a little bit less, but 8 years later, if I could do that at 8-9 years later, for me it means one thing. It means that I got smarter about training, that I know more about programming, training, that I can do a better job training if I can go back to specific numbers. So I started a year ago, and the first month was a discovery in itself.
I know.
By week 4, week 3, I was like, oh shit, did I fall back that far? And this is very interesting because I had not realized where I was, because I'm still a very good athlete and everything. So if I would just, I could take 2-3 days off from training, try to max out and still get some, like somewhat decent number. But that's one thing. But then there's the train for 3 weeks straight, 5 times, 6 times a week, and then see where your body is at then. And that was suddenly I was like, oh shit, it's not that my strength had fallen off as it did, obviously, but not like crazy. It's just I couldn't sustain training anymore. Yeah. I could not train 5 days a week hard. No, I couldn't. And everything hurt. My shoulder, my hip, like everything started to do. And I wasn't, and suddenly like the lifts are not going up. Like I thought, I'm just going to stroll into it, start training. And then no, they kind of went down because everything was hurting. And then suddenly I was like, oh, my squat is shit. Oh, my deadlift is shit. Oh shit, my bench is shit. Oh, I can't press overhead. And at numbers that were far below what I was hoping they were at. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, all right, well, let's start changing that. So I start, putting some work in, strongman, powerlifting, and things like this. So I start training again, but there wasn't really a direction yet. I was just trying to lift and see I would get better, right? So right shoulder was hurting, so I talked about that, right? So I started to do the exercises needed to fix that. strongman stuff. I start to actually get some correct numbers onto strongman and stuff like that. But about like 8 weeks ago, I was like, all right, like I need my static numbers, to go back up.
Yeah.
Because they're slowly but surely coming back up, but I was like, I need to address where I'm at really with that. So I was like, all right. So I created a template and I decided to go. That's a modular system for Strongfit that I'll do a module about soon. On the next template, I'll tell everybody, hey, I'm about to start my 12-week cycle, and I'll make a module out of that with calls every week to explain what's happening. Mm-hmm. And then if you guys want to do it with me, that'd be cool. I mean, that way we can all post videos and do stuff like that. Anyway, so I have in mind to be more structured in my training so that I can see really where the issues are. Yeah, I know, amazingly. I know, structure. So I did.
So people that know you should just fall off their chairs right now.
Because I created a modular system which allowed me to do better than a linear progression. My problem with linear progression that there's a certain number of things from a principle perspective that did not fit. So I was like, all right, so now let me do it my way, the Strongfit way. And then that's what I created. I created a 12-week cycle, the Strongfit way, with the 50s, the 100s, the 5s, with a block of power building, a block of strongman, a block of static. I'm in the strongman block right now, and do things like this, right? And then, so I start this cycle, and then I start with the higher reps, 12, 15 reps on the squat. And I made progress very fast on everything, because now I started to be able to establish where the issues are. And it was very important to hold myself accountable to those things, because then they started to show that my hammies needed more work, so there's the assistance work. My front delts are a problem, but so are my biceps. And so having the structure like that actually forced me to work on specific things. So what's very interesting about that is my bench is coming back very fast. So right now I can bench 315 for 4 at least. My max I think is 6 or 7. That's when I was. So I've never benched 4 plates. I bench 390 instead of 4 or 5. So I bench like 175 kilos, but not 180. So I never could put 4 plates on the bar. So that's my goal, right?
You can't sleep at night because of that.
No. Anyway, that bothers me.
With every reason, so.
That bothers me.
Yeah, you shouldn't be.
So exactly right. So right now I can do 3 plates for 4. So that means I'm probably at 365, right? So I'm not going to reach the 400 right now, but I think on the night cycle I might be able to get close. If not the one after that, I'll be able to get, because I'm smarter about the training. So.
And I think that since the hundreds make a huge
right, so
difference.
The difference has been the hundreds. What I find interesting is that my squat and my deadlift are not back nearly to where it was. So I made a lot of progress on the squat. I can rep easily 4 plates now, which is still, I did 500 for 5. So now I'm at 405 for 5, 6. So fairly easily. So I'm still 100 pounds below where I was. So there's still a lot of work to do. But the squat came back a lot slower than the bench, and the deadlift is coming back kind of slower than the squat.
So question, is that then because of just you're training your weaknesses in the assistance work, or how does that work? How
am I going to fix it?
No, what is the conclusion of why the bench is progressing so much faster than the squat and the deadlift?
Because my structure just got by not being consistently hitting certain things, my structure went down. And so that's a lesson for you out there, is you're going to have to build your structure, and your structure is a shit ton of heavy weight with a high volume on specific thing constantly. There is no 12-week cycle that will put like 50 pounds on your squat. It might happen once, but that's not how this works. To get strong is year-long work on specific things. So first of all, understand that everything is 2 years. Let's start with that. It's not 2 months, it's 2 years. You want to make progress something, it's 2 years. I'm 1 year in. That's why I know my bench will be decent a year from now. So what I'm doing now, I'm doing for next year. And so for the squat and the deadlift, to answer, I have a big ass and I have a huge mid back. I do, that's why she's smiling, because I have a big ass.
He does. It's kind of challenging for me sometimes.
Oh, you feel threatened?
I do.
Yeah,
I do.
And I have a huge mid back, right? Which is why I could do the yoke carry so heavy. What I don't have is that in between. Like that around the lumbar erector thing. I'm very weak there. That's why I actually carry water and fat there, because that space doesn't get hit, because I do everything in my mid back or my glutes. That's where the pain there also sometimes come from and stuff like that. So I need to hit this area. The problem is when things get heavy, is I'll go to my mid-back or I'll go to my glutes. I'm not going to go to the weak part because, so on the deadlift and everything, at some point, things, the second they got heavy, that part would let go and then that's it. On the squat, I can feel that where I give is here. Is exactly that part. It's not in the mid-back, it's not in the glutes, it's not even the hammies or the quads. It's all into that, the core part, like around the belly button if you want, but more toward the back. I just don't have the strength there. So I started to put back extension, hip extension, just like the heavy sandbag carries, the heavy squats, the heavy sandbag squats, all the stuff that hits me exactly in this area. But to develop that area, how long do you think it's going to take? It's not going to be 12 weeks. It's next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And by the way, it means I'm going to be sore there for the next year. And my ribs are gonna bitch about it, and I am beat up every single day. Like I'm on week 6, which means next week I'm in the 5s this week reps. So next week I start to go into the 4s. Things are gonna be heavy. I'm beat to shit.
Yeah, and the reality is, if you train a weakness, it's gonna suck.
Oh, it's gonna suck. And then again, I'm beat up everywhere, and then so I've gained muscle. I'm getting stronger, so that motivates me. But you need to understand what it takes to get stronger is that mentality of, okay, so where are the weaknesses? And I'm going to work that all year for 2 years.
So, yeah, but
that's not what they're telling you. That's not what they're selling you. That's not what they're telling you. We have to go back to those blue collar values, which is why I think so many Americans, if you look at powerlifting and everything, those were train your ass off, almost like Midwest, like farmers type of guys who are just big and just fucking work hard all year long.
If you're gonna think a year from now, you have to put your ego aside. You have to just be able to do those freaking 40-minute EMOMs or 30-minute EMOMs where it's just
for conditioning.
I'm talking from my point of view, where it's just hard and difficult. That
off-season type of thing.
Where you just have to shut those voices off and just do it. Because it's not fancy and you can't post it on Instagram. And you can't post your progress from 2 months from now on Instagram because it's not going to be 2 months. It's going to be a fucking year.
Right, and it's honestly, you have to understand that training is tedious in a way. It's like on paper, it's very tedious. When you do it, you put your soul into it, so it's not. But the key to be strong is it is boring, so don't make it boring. That's the part is, yes, written on paper, it's like I do one rep less every week on the weight and then the same exercise. But when you get to the training session, that's where the intensity matters. So it's boring on paper, just don't make it boring in the gym then. Mm-hmm. But that's where the work is. But that shit is gonna take you, if you wanna be strong, it's 2 years, not 2 months. Right, just stop letting them tell you, like, if you want, find your bicep by doing the bicep curl this way or that way. You want bigger biceps? All right, so do arms pretty much 5 times a week for the next 2 years, year and a half, year. Trust me, you'll get bigger biceps. But what matters the most out of that idea is that within the next year, by doing your bicep 5 times a week, is that, and screw over training, is that you're going to find what works or what doesn't work for you. And that's really what matters at the end.
It gives also meaning to...
Right, because you're putting so much energy into it. I see so many people, we go to the Global Gym in the morning and I see so many of them that with arms, that stuff that do like the cable extension toward the back, like Arnold style, trying to isolate this muscle, isolate that muscle. And I'm like, isolate what muscle? You don't have it. Go bench heavy, go do some close grip bench press, go do the basic exercises, get stronger, put in the work. You can't cut corners. Those short cycle of 6 weeks will allow you to end up better than when you started in the cycle, that's for sure. But that doesn't mean you're gonna make progress overall with that. So people will go, well, I'll just can put cycle after cycle after cycle after cycle. I'm like, that's true. Are you doing that?
But I think it's also that a lot of fitness, the big part of the fitness industry, I think, also does it like that because it is true that people nowadays of my generation has a very, very short attention span.
Yes.
And the only way you can get them involved is by very short-term mentality, very short-term results, because that's the only thing they train.
That's the only thing you can sell. Yeah.
The only thing, because that's the only thing that my generation does. I'm guilty of that as well.
That's always surprised me when we were in Holland. We would go to the global gym and everybody trained like a pro bodybuilder. I could tell they were doing, in the sense that they were doing the same set scheme and exercises than Phil Heath was doing, or Kai Green or whatever. Of course, none of them look like that, but they all train like a pro bodybuilder because that's what makes me look like that guy. I was like, it isn't. It really isn't. It's that it's position over tension. It's trying to follow a program to the letter without actually understanding it, without actually understanding the concepts of it, and just doing the reps and everything and surviving on that weird hope that one day it's going to lead to results, but really it doesn't.
You also have a lack of responsibility in that, because if it fails, then you can say it's the programming.
I've seen that so much time. And don't get me wrong, I'm happy to see people in gyms, but understand how this works. If you want to make progress, find mentors, even online and everything, but look at the good ones. Look at the guy who have trained hard for a long time, who have achieved things, and listen to them, to how they talk on what got them there, and then do your version of it. It's not going to be their version of it, but you have to understand who you want to get your information from the people who have done the stuff. Right, like the best jiu-jitsu teacher were the Machados were, because they're Gracies, they're cousins, but they're Gracies. They were there at the beginning when the thing was shaped. They're not necessarily the guy who came up with a fancy technique or stuff like that, but they were there. They learned the basics of jiu-jitsu and they hone it with each other. They understand jiu-jitsu. That will make them better teachers. Those are the people, because they can reflect on the thing. Instead of a guy who's just a great athlete and whooping everybody, that might not be a good teacher. And if you just try to emulate his technique, you will not be the person you should be. You know what I mean? So at the end, it's exactly the same thing as the comic book industry. It comes down to that. It comes down to character, right? Build your character in the gym, right? So if you're a coach, you want to understand how to do all this, do it first. You can't learn to swim on a table. You got to do the shit. You need to learn the basics of bodybuilding, of endurance, of strength, powerlifting, strongman, some Olympic weightlifting. You need to at least understand how the things work if you're going to be able to coach it. You need to do the work. And does it take time to make progress? Fuck yeah, it does. Yeah. You want to get stronger? 2 years. Well, I mean, 10 years. But on a specific exercise, it's 2 years. Yeah. If you hit a plateau, sometimes it takes 2 years to go past it.
And I think there's commitment to training, to being better, that's what you have to learn. And that's what you have to learn first. Right. Is a commitment to training. Like, don't train like you're on Tinder. What do you mean with, explain what you mean with that.
Commitment. Don't go into, you swipe right, you have a girl that you go, yeah, I kind of like her, and you just go there to bang her knowing you'll never go back. It's a one time, you need to have sex and you're done. You have that approach to life, or you have, this is that person I like, I want to wife her. I want to commit to that person, make it work. And trust me, your experience, sex, even just sex with that person will not be the same sex as with the first one, because you'll be committed and interested and trying to make an effort, and it'll be a better experience for all parties involved. Let's put it this way. Yeah. Right? Training is like that. You can't just show up at training like it's not even cheating on your spouse, because at least that's exciting. It's a girl on, isn't that why people do it? No, I don't cheat, but I'm guessing that's why people do it. Otherwise, why would they do it?
What, being on Tinder?
No, cheating on their spouse.
There's many reasons why
anyway,
I think.
Like I was about to say, like showing to the job, to training and just doing your program is not even cheating on your spouse. No. Because at least that's exciting.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just banging a girl you don't even like one time, and at the end of the night, not even understanding why you were there in the first place.
Yeah, at least if you do it because of cheating, you at least have like a fantasy that you are sort of committed to find out.
Right.
If you're just doing it and you're single, there's literally all you're doing is just
masturbating.
Masturbating with that's
with someone. You have someone masturbating you. That's all.
Yeah.
That's about as far as it goes, right? You can't train like that.
But it also explains why people feel so hollow when they do that. You know?
But that's why, but the problem is when you feel hollow doing that, then you need even a bigger program now. Now you need a program for that dude or that dude, and then I'm going to fall into the ladder so I can be a little bit closer to that person. That's not how you get closer to your idols. You understand how they did things, and you try to mimic their approach to the thing, not what they do, because that's what they're doing now, but that's not what they were doing when they were in your shoes. When they were doing back then, that's what you should be doing. So you have to understand their approach to the thing and mimic their drive, mimic their approach to things, mimic their curiosity, mimic their love for the game. That's what you want to mimic.
Well, if you back to relationship, I think it's a great comparison, because like a committed relationship is so much more work. So much more work than
what
a
are you saying?
hollow.
Like everybody's gonna go like, oh wow.
No, but I mean, like, you need to be interested, you need to pay attention, you need to make an effort, you need to do all those things, right?
We're gonna do a podcast, by the way, a personal podcast soon, that it will not be Strongfit related, let's put it this way.
But yeah, exactly. But now you're just throwing
No, but it's true, yeah.
But
it was
having a real relationship, but that also gives you so much better results out of life, out of
so
things than just a hollow, quick
getting stronger is a
fix.
craft. Like many things, a craft requires, it's not the number of hours you spend doing it, it's the number of minutes you spend doing it. In the sense of, it's the passion you put. Are you going to sleep at night thinking about your training the next day? Are you, when you're training, are you there? Are you know what I mean? Like you have a set of 5, does it matter to you that you get to the 5th rep?
And reflecting on the training afterwards, like, what did I do? How do I did it? How did I do
it better?
How do I do it better next time? What can I do better next time? Because
should I do it better next time? Like at least some type of reflection of like, I did the program and I'm done. I mean, it doesn't work. Well, yeah, and by the way, 2 weeks later, no, it's not going to work 2 weeks later. Like, but you have to have measuring sticks. It's true that 4 weeks into the program, you should see some results. Like 6 months into training something, you should definitely some results. But
from
those are just mid-level goals, right? Those are just like, okay, what I'm doing is somewhat progressing, but do not have those short-term goals only. Short-term goals are there only to show you that what you're doing is working. That's all. They are not the thing in itself. The thing in itself is 2 years from now. You need to think like that if you want to get strong. You have to think in years, not months, especially not weeks. So like that 12-week cycle, me, is just to hold me accountable to myself to doing certain rep schemes. Because I will not do that 6 to 8 rep on the squat. I hate it. It's heavy on my back. Like 400 for 6 to 8, 6 right now, let's be honest, 6 to 8 I wish. I'm still weak on that one. It's coming back, but it's coming back slow. I hate it because anything past 5, it starts to get heavy on my back, heavier, I'm starting to breathe hard and everything. Whenever I get to 10, even at lighter weights, I'm starting to go, my God, I'm out of shape. Like that, I need to train again. Because I do all the assistance work and everything, but you know what I can't do? Is I can't do heavy weight on my back for reps. I've lost that completely. And that's the laziness of not having pushed correctly for enough on certain things.
But I need to build that. Is that a lack of structure?
Yeah, like the yoke carries, you know, I get to 700 and honestly it feels heavy. It's like really heavy. Heavy like 900 was, like 850 was before. Like, it's just like I need to spend every Saturday under the yoke and just put weight and struggle and feel broken after and again and again and again, and then a year from now I'll have decent numbers. But then a year after that. But so my goal honestly is I want to be able to surpass my number, not the 1,000-pound yoke carry, but my static numbers. Right? On the farmers, the yoke, I won't go to, I'll try to go back to our 900, but I won't go past that because the toll on the structure was ridiculous and I don't need it to compete anyway. But every other number, I'll try to go up. I'll try to beat on the log, I'll try to beat the squat, the deadlift, the bench, the farmers, all the strongman events, the stone. I'll try to beat all that because if I can do that 8 to 10 years later, then it shows that I got smarter at training. And that's cool. And by the way, I'm still doing it with no TRT or drugs of any kind. I started doing creatine last week. I forgot to take it today as usual, but that's as far as I go. I don't even take vitamins or shit like that. I should. We're actually going to do a blood work on July 1st.
It'll be interesting to talk a little bit about that. That's really
and then I'll explain where my testosterone levels are and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And if it's below 600, I might look at TRT, honestly.
Yeah.
Because I want to, like the training twice a day is working really well. I want to maintain that. I feel great, so I don't see why I would change that. TRT, honestly, might be something I consider just so I can get stronger. I won't lie. It would be not for health in that sense. I don't think I need it. We'll see what the numbers say, by the way, because I don't know. We'll see what the blood work says.
And we'll talk about it a little bit.
But and then we'll talk about what we'll do from there, because we're going to look for Janina as well. Plus, it's cool to have the blood work, because we'll see what the protocol did to my LDL levels and stuff like that. So then we'll have a podcast on that, and then I'll decide where I go with that.
Yeah.
TRT is because it would allow me to be stronger, and since they don't test in strongmen, I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And I want to compete again. So, but if I'm at 800 on the testosterone level, then I won't do anything.
Yeah.
It's only if I'm low, but we'll see anyway.
Yeah.
When we get there.
Well, from my training perspective, like for me, we moved to Brazil about a year ago, so I quitted track about a year ago. 2 weeks ago, I quitted a year ago. And what I realize now, quitting a year ago, is that now I understand track better after not doing it for a year. I understand
the training, right?
I understand, not the aspect, because definitely my sprint is not as good as it was a year ago. Let's be honest. It is definitely not. Like, I haven't spent enough time to be better, but I understand what I did wrong, and that was just not being able to digest the knowledge that I was given by my coach. I was training too much to understand what I was doing. And with that, I understood the responsibility you have as an athlete. I made the mistake to follow a coach or to follow a program too much in track.
To the letter, yeah.
To the letter. And
but can you explain digesting the knowledge so people understand? Because you don't mean just the technique, you mean like the feel of running, like the what it is that they're saying. And that's, I will talk more about like the Strongfit knowledge. Like, to really understand Strongfit is a fucking process. Takes really long, because every time you think you know it, you don't know it. You realize that you don't know shit. And that's the same thing with sprint. I get that one too. Yeah.
And every time you think, oh, I got a coach, no.
And again, what she's referring to is understanding the feel for the run.
Yeah.
Is understanding, because the sprinting is actually far more technical than it looks.
It is.
There's a technical running, but there's the first step, the 60 meters, and then after that, and then there's many things.
Yeah, the phases, the technique, but also the feel. Like, you cannot force sprint. It has to be a flow. That means that there has to be a certain type of mindset in it.
Understanding of the technique,
that means that there has to be a whole calmness to you, to your nutrition. There needs to be a stable mind. Right. You need to go in it with a specific type of mind. That means that you can't do it mindless, because it is a technical aspect. That means that you have to have a certain type of mindset and a trained mind towards being in flow, and you can't be angry doing it, stuff like that. Where now I'm going like, oh, I made so many mistakes. Good, it's great to make mistakes because you learn from them, but it took me a year off to realize that. A year, but because I did track maybe 10 years without ever thinking or considering it, what I was actually doing. So I ingested so much information into my body that I didn't digest.
But the problem with that too is it didn't let you run, because you were trying to mimic instead of absorbing. So it's like thinking you can just eat more. Yeah, you can always eat more, but the problem is if you don't digest it, then it's not going to turn into muscles anyway, which is why we see most people that say, I want to gain weight, are just getting fat.
Yeah, well...
I want to bulk up. You're not bulking up, you're just getting fat. Because you're not getting that much muscle.
And that's
you're
what
getting
I did
weight.
With knowledge from track, and it was a huge mistake. Yeah.
So, but that happens a lot, and then you see that with bodybuilding, the bulk phase is just people getting fat. Like, I was so surprised when I went to the Arnold in Spain, and the number one stand, the busiest stand, the two busiest stand at the Arnold. I was there for the strongman competition. in Spain was one that was selling protein ice cream, and the other one was some type of food. Then he had massive lines, nothing else. Yeah. Like there's an obsession with the food stuff of eating more and things like that to get bigger. It's like, again, dude, you're not bulking up, you're getting fat.
Yeah.
Like it's tension over position. It's food ingested versus food digested. It's training ingested versus training digested. What matters is learning to digest better. That's what matters.
And the funny thing is that for me, the knowledge of training, like I always did running, coaching and stuff like that, but explaining it to you and stuff like that made me understand it so much better.
Yeah.
That's how, when I started to digest the knowledge of track, when I started to explain to you, and I was like, so all these things I know, how do I explain it? So how do I tell to someone who never sprinted before? How do I break it down and I explain this? That's when I started to think, like, what is it that I'm doing? And by explaining it every time, like we have some people we coach here in Brazil and also at the seminars, every time I learn something, because I'm like, oh yeah, shit. And also the way people respond to what I am saying makes me learn more.
Yeah, plus you're like, oh, is that what I do? Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it's fascinating. And also every time people are like, I don't know shit, which is a great realization. That's also the cool thing about starting a new sport. One year in, I definitely make still a lot of mistakes. I'm a rookie, and being a rookie is awesome.
Yeah, being a rookie is awesome, but because you make progress all the time and everything is new and you're supposed not to know and everything. The problem starts when you're 2 years usually into something, because then suddenly the shit gets real. And now you need to put the work in, because a lot of people quit Jiu-Jitsu, CrossFit or whatever, start to have problem at the 2-year mark. Because now like that fast progress rate stops and now the real shit starts. And that 2 to 4, 4 to 6 is the key moments. That 2 to 4 is so important. Most people, 95% of people will quit Jiu-Jitsu in the first 2 years. Yeah. White belts or blue belts. Yeah. That's when they quit. Yeah. And strength is the same. So that's why those 6-week cycles are awesome, or even 12-week cycles are awesome, is because by then you start to get beat up, but you don't have to continue. But if you want to be strong, you take a small break and then you do it again and again, but for 2 years. And that means you're going to be beat up for 2 years, but then you'll be stronger. Yeah. But that's the trade-off. Like that, if you want to be stronger, you have to think in years, not weeks.
Yeah, and that explains that you also have to be fully committed to make choices, you know what I mean?
It has to be a choice, because you have to understand what you're getting into. It's and I don't care if it's stronger on a sandbag squat, if it's stronger on a bench press or whatever. Like but people will say, oh, I just want to be stronger. I'm like, all right, 5 pounds, 10 pounds, because there's always a moment where just putting 10 kilos on the lift is a lot. Yeah. But no matter what you have to understand is that it's the process of getting there that matters.
Yeah, and that's also why I think 1 year out of track, I start to reflect a lot better on it, is because honestly, the reason why I quit track is because I knew I was not maybe good enough to get the goals that I want, to be in the top 10 of the world.
Let's talk about that on the next podcast, because I think it's a very important part. We'll talk about that in the next podcast. It's like, what if you can't be a world champion?
Yeah, because anyway, I was.
No, I mean, that's a good point. What if you cannot be a world champion? Should you still train then? Let's talk about that next week. That's an interesting idea. Bye, everybody. Thank you.